The time is 3:58. 3:58 is the numerical value of the Hebrew word Mashiach, which means Messiah. It's 3:58 p.m. in Jerusalem on Friday, April 17th, 2026, and then is Yom Shishi, the sixth day of the week. The 30th day of Nisan, which is actually Rosh Chodesh Iyar. It's the first day of Rosh Chodesh, meaning the new month, the new moon. 30 Nisan, it's also the yard site, the anniversary of the passing of the chief disciple of the Arizal, whose name is Rabbi Chaim Vital, Rabbi Chaim ben Yosef Vital, and he published a lot of the teachings of the Arizal, the mystical, Kabbalistic teachings, the inner dimension of the Torah. And this is the PL-89 Gematriatic Quantum Thought Calendar. Excuse me, just one moment. I get my pointer. It's called the Yad. I use it to read the Torah. I like to use it for different things, just to read in general, study, and to point things out. And this calendar I've been working on for 14 years, and it's coming to a nice completion now. It first took shape and form in Elul, meaning September time of maybe late August, September time. It was Elul of 2012. That's going to be 14 years this summer. However, the ideas were already in play in springtime, like now. And throughout the years, over the years, I've had different conceptions, different ideas about what this actually is. And it actually went in different directions at different times. And as of now, as it's about to finish its completion, this 14 years is a composition of 3 different time periods, and each time period halved as it progressed. There was an 8-year period, and then that halved into 4 years, that halved into 2 years, and naturally I think the next phase going forward from here will halve into 1 year, then we'll halve into 6 months, and if I'm really ambitious about it, I'll take it all the way till the most minute. I might do that, although it might just be my inclination to recursion, but because I love recursive things, things that imitate or reference themselves and keep on going. That's kind of like how I understand recursion. Self-referencing, and then another version of it, and then another version of it, and it's really the same thing, but it just keeps on going like an infinite feedback, kind of like infinite loop kind of a thing. And so getting back on track, this calendar, I didn't know what it was in the beginning. It was just, it took shape and form, and it's very strange because when people make a blueprint, let's just say an architect makes a blueprint, or someone writes a paper, a physicist will write a paper on whatever, or a mathematician will do something, or anyone who does anything will have an idea of what they want to do with it. They'll have a basic, someone who designs, let's say an engineer who's, or team of engineers that are designing the next year's model for the new car, or someone in Tesla, whatever. They have an idea basically of what they're trying to do, of what they want to achieve, and they do it. But I had no idea in mind of what I was doing with this. It was just something that came into my mind, and I just, took it at face value. It is what it is. And so I'm still not sure exactly what the full extent of it is, although I have a lot better idea now than I did then. So basically what this is it's how it's come to be. I won't go into all what it was over the years, but what it ended up as being is a 2-part calendar, and it meaning 2 calendars in one, and it's a lunar and solar calendar together. But it's more calendars as well, but the basic 2 main calendars, and the purpose of it is for taking Torah concepts and showing how they're related to other Torah concepts, and not limiting it to inside the book, rather taking it outside and applying it to the mundane, so-called mundane world. That's the basic idea. And there's a lot of different examples that I can give about that. But it's really geared for things like, let's just say any business, anything that has to do with, let's say, finance, any numbers basically, and bringing it to interface with a parallel world known as gematria. Maybe you've heard of gematria. Gematria is an ancient practice that was used by rabbinic, in Hebrew scholars, but not limited to Hebrew. Greeks used it as well. In Greek, it's called iosophy, and it's the practice of assigning a numerical value to a letter, so that every letter is a number, and then the extension of that is every word is a number, and so forth. And every sentence can be a number. You can have whole paragraphs that are numbers. And the usefulness of this is that, aside for like cryptography, if you want to make something encode something, but also to see the multidimensional nature of words. How if you see that a word is equal to a number, and then that number is equal to a different word, and that different word that has the very same number can be compared or contrasted. Sometimes it's like just the opposite, but it makes a connection between 2 words, where otherwise there wouldn't have been. Like one of the most famous, those who are familiar with gematria in Hebrew, and I was beginning to study Greek gematria as well, Greek letters and Greek words and Greek gematria, although I might get back into that. But instead of Greek, I focused on English gematria, which is, I found some incredible secrets in it when plugged into the Hebrew gematria. But to give an example, one of the most famous gematrias, that you'll know, is that the word Mashiach, the Hebrew word for Mashiach for Messiah is Mashiach, and that has a numerical value of 358. But the word Nachash, which means snake or serpent, that we read about in Genesis 1, has the very same numerical value. Now the fact that serpent equals Messiah has multi-layers, levels of explanations. You could say simply that if you read the Genesis story, that the serpent tempted Eve, so it was the evil force, and so because of the temptation and subsequent failure of Adam and Eve to abide by God's law, whatever the master plan was, even if it was meant to be, ultimately they still fell into this thing called rebellion, and something that Hashem, that God gave them clothing, actually clothed them, because they saw that they were naked, it says. They were ashamed. Whatever this was, caused something to be not right where it was right before. And there's many questions that can go. Did they have an evil will beforehand? If they didn't, why did they disobey? These are very deep questions that I don't necessarily have an answer to right now. But basically, getting back to what gematria is, because that's what this is all about, you could say that a Messiah, and this is alluded to in one of the Targums, that when it says that when God is dealing out the consequences for this, he says that the man will have to work by the sweat of his brow, and the woman will have pain in childbirth, etc. And to the serpent, God says in Hebrew, it's ve'eva ashit beincha ubein ha'isha ubein zaracha ubein zar'a hu yeshuv charosh ve'ata teshufenu akev. I will place enmity between you and between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He will crush your head, and you will bite his heel. And so we see that the Targum makes a reference to the days of the Messiah. Actually, Targum Yonasan says these are the days of the Messiah. Something like that. It references the word Mashiach. I saw it inside. So this is a very interesting connection. How interesting is it that the word Mashiach equals 358 and the word Nachash equals 358? That shows you that Hebrew is a mathematical and intentional language, which words have meanings and can be measured mathematically through numbers. This is different than what would be described as numerology. Some might call this numerology, but numerology, from what I've seen, let's just say in the pop astrology, and they say this number represents this, and this number has this energy, or this number. I'm not saying it's totally wrong either, but this is different than that, because this is really more of a study of language. It's really just a numerical study of words and phrases and sentences and comparing them numerically. That's what gematria is. And gematria gets very, very deep, because you might or might not be aware of this, but the cipher that is used for gematria, there is one universal cipher, the most common. It has a name to it, although most people probably don't know it, but it's called Mispar Arki, I think. The value, meaning Arki Erech, Mispar Erech, or something like that. It's basically Aleph through Yud is 1 through 10, and then Yud through Kuf through 100. The 10 is 10 to 100, it goes by tens. And once it gets to 100, it goes by hundreds. And that's how, by far, the most of the gematria you'll see in the Talmud or Mishnah or Midrash or any Jewish text. When they use gematria, they'll do it that way. However, there are many, many ciphers for gematria and different types of encryption or decryption methods. And just to give one example, there's one called Mispar Siduri, order number. And it's not counted in the same way that the regular gematria is counted. It's counted just 1 through 22, because there's 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, it's just all through Tav. And there's some amazing results with that. I mean, real connections you can see. An example of that is the firstborns in the Torah all have the same ordinal number, not regular gematria. For example, Cain in regular gematria is 160, but in ordinal number it's 43. So Cain is equal to Esau. You can see the connection there. Reuven, the first son of, is 43. These various firstborns are connected through the ordinal number. And how many people, we don't learn that in the Talmud. Talmud doesn't use ordinal number. But if you study ordinal number, you'll see some amazing connections. It doesn't stop there. There's Mispar Katan, small number, where it's only single digits. And that's good for categorizing stuff, because you don't have to go to so many details. You just make broad categories. It gets more deep. You have Adbash. Adbash is where it's a substitutionary cipher, where Aleph equals Taf and Bet equals Shin. It's just the first letter equals last letter. And you flip them around, and there's some amazing results with that as well. Real connections. There's Albam, where Aleph equals Lamed, and there's many more. Mispar Kitmi, Mispar, there's Achbi, there's, what else is there? And then there's other substitution ciphers like Ayak Bakar and Chas B'Tah, and just many. There's maybe possibly hundreds of ciphers, and their usability, their functionality is there's Mansapach where the Sofit numbers have values, and they all work and they all have their own special functionality, but we only have a certain amount of minutes in a day, and I think that no one can do all of them. Even if someone's a genius, and they can't do all of them. There's just not enough time on this earth to do it. So I think it's advisable just to focus on a few. And I wanted to focus. I have something I call the G18. It's not my own, but I've made it my own. In other words, I put my own spin on it. But it comes from a website called Gematrinator, and they're originally just English gematria, but they came out with a Hebrew gematria cipher that has 18 different ciphers from what I've seen, maybe more by now. But there's 18 ciphers, the regular ones. They have Siduri, they have Mispar Katan, they have prime number gematria, a triangle number gematria, square number gematria. It's basically when you go like 1 through 22 just in square numbers, like 1, 2, 4, 8, like that. 16, etc., 25. And then there's triangle numbers. Well, the triangle numbers, one, when you add them, you add. And then there's Mispar Kidmi, which is like a triangle number except up until 10, and then it goes just the letter before it, you add to it. The Fibonacci gematrias, you have really interesting creative things like Ofanim. Ofanim is like, I think there's a first and last letter, and then there's Mispar Elam, the invisible number, with just the invisible part of the spelled out word. Miloim, Mispar Kadol, Mispari. If you spell the number out as a word, it's amazing. There's 18 ciphers that I use and correlating it with the days of the month. So the cipher functions as a calendar, and a clock. That would be really ideal if it was a clock as well. But right now it's a calendar, meaning it moves slower. But a calendar, in this system, when you're in the speed of thought, it's all the same thing. Okay? A calendar and a clock is the same thing. Because once you have the right number, it's just a matter of how big these spaces are. So it's a calendar and a clock, but maybe it's a calendoc, You can call it a calendoc. It's one thing. So getting back to this, that's really the purpose of this, is to connect gematria in a usable way that's plugged into a time value. It's plugged into a time system that people can use, that I myself can use, and hopefully it can be helpful. So there's so many things I've been explaining them over the past, say, 9 months. Since the summer of last year, I've been making videos daily on this, and it's about to come to an end. In just a couple of weeks, when we finish the next 72-letter name, it's gonna end. I won't be making videos about this anymore. Officially, I might start a whole new series about something new about it, but as far as I know, it's done, and it's kind of exciting. I'm kind of waiting to see what's next. So I'll just go straight to the day numbers and call it a day. No pun intended. Let's go here. Today is the 30th day of Nisan. That means, according to the lunar cycle, in Dispensation 3, it would be 10-day twilight 10, which is like we finished the whole count, and we're right over here. It's not even on the calendar. There's 10 days that are counted, that are not on the calendar physically, but they are counted as part of the calendar. It's called the 10-day twilight. That's the last 10 days of every cycle. And Nisan, in Dispensation 3, Nisan is the last one. Okay, so 10-day twilight 3 has a value of 10. Right? Right. So, today is also April the 17th. April 17th, and April Nisan, since it's a lunar and solar calendar, it's just one thing. So it's right here. It's April 17th is box printed number 14 on it. And so 14 plus 10, of course, is 24. And 24, I think, I'm wondering if Rabbi Chaim Vital, his yard site was on the 24th day of April in 17, whatever. That would be amazing if it was, because that would prove. Let me see. Chaim Vital. Let's see. No. It says here the 23rd of April. 23rd of April, it says. Okay, you know, with colon, you can always, if you're one off, it's like. Huh. This is interesting. Anyway, the point is that, he passed away on April 23rd, 1620. It says he was born on October October 11th of the Gregorian calendar, and October 23rd of the Julian calendar. Which is interesting because he passed away on the 23rd as well. That's kind of interesting. But the point is that today is his yard site. And going back to the lunar number, it's 24 here. He had a follower named Joshua ben Nun. Interesting. Huh. Okay. Anyway, 24 in English gematria has a numerical value of 167, which equals Elvis Presley, and it also equals John the Baptist, out of all things. Is there a connection between the two? I don't know. But that's all I've got for now. Shabbat Shalom.